So much Nintendo Switch 2 information to digest. And listen, I said it in my last video, go watch that if you haven't. You need to be on a pre-order registration list on Nintendo's website to have a shot at getting the console day one, outside of the other retailers, which we'll be making follow-up videos on. But that's very important if you're trying to get a day one console. It's my earlier upload from today. I mentioned I would be making another video with my thoughts on the Direct, but we're actually going to do this a little bit differently because there is so much information that has hit the internet following the Switch 2 Direct that you didn't see revealed to you in the Direct, that I actually want to focus on that stuff with you guys. And stay subscribed with notifications on to the channel for my thoughts individually on select games, because there was so much there and so much in-depth footage that I can break down and make into individual videos. We have topics for days. Some of these will go up multiple uploads per day, so tons to cover. But what I want to first dive into has to do with game pricing on Nintendo Switch 2, which actually is a bad news situation. Calling it what it is, we're going way higher with game prices than I thought we would be in this current generation. No, 70 is not the new baseline. We're talking 80 digital, upwards of potentially 90 for a physical edition in some cases. Nintendo Switch 2 game key card overviews, because Nintendo quietly killed physical games in this Direct like they actually did. And now there's some benefits, don't get me wrong. You can share your games, and that's kind of a extra nice thing, that you buy one game, share it with a friend in local multiplayer. That's all great, but they're also not putting the games on the cartridges in some cases anymore. So we have to break down those details. We did get a look at the new UI for the Nintendo Switch 2 system, which also is extremely similar to Nintendo Switch 1 at this point in time. However, we will walk through whether or not that can change a little bit, because it is possible. Then we have the game upgrade situation for Nintendo Switch 1 games, because some pricing has been revealed around that. There will be a price involved for the game upgrades. Some bigger upgrades cost more, some smaller upgrades cost less. There's a way to not pay it when you're a Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack member. And we also have a handful of titles that are going to just get free upgrades. There is some kind of achievement system that we're going to talk about that has not been fully detailed, but it is there for Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild. An achievement system from Nintendo. Yes, that's actually something we're going to walk through as well. The GameCube NSO controller is going to be locked to a specific criteria to actually get your hands on one. And some screenshots and recording quality of life improvements to the Nintendo app, as well as a bunch of accessory prices and a first look at all of the box art and what it looks like for Nintendo Switch 2. Tons and tons of details to dive through. I'll have timestamps for as many topics as I can in the comments down below. Before we get on the same page with all of this info, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification to join Sunbro Nation if you're new here. And we're gonna first kick it off with some of the rougher news out there to digest and wrap your head around it. I'm still buying all this stuff day one. Call me part of the problem. But a new pricing precedent has been set for Nintendo on what you charge for a first-party in-house game. And you can see the headline right over from Tom Henderson at Insider Gaming, where it says Nintendo Switch 2 games will cost up to 80 for digital, 90 for physical. Now, I think there's still some to be confirmed details around this price variance, because this is according to the European Nintendo Switch store or Switch 2 store on the pricing around this. But you can see it has been announced that the price for games on Nintendo Switch 2 will set players back up to $80 digitally and 90 for physical, at least in some cases. The price increase also means that Nintendo Switch 2 games will cost 80 euros for a digital copy in Europe, while physically will be 90 euros. And then they have basically just like that image provided with the exact price point that you see on there. And to kind of give you a distinction on how Nintendo's doing this, the one game that is at the $80 price point, and I'm expecting this at this point for the massive titles, right? Mario Kart World, which was Nintendo's most successful selling, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was Nintendo's most successful selling title on the Nintendo Switch. They know the demand is there for that game, and they are clearly charging more because of it. Now, yes, that game looks incredible. So much open world enjoyment and just you being able to progress throughout all of the stages with no interruptions is wild. 24 players, all of the cool stuff. We're definitely making a dedicated video on that. But Nonetheless, yes, this is the type of game that's going to cost you $80 going forward for the digital edition. Now, and then it's been mentioned, you know, that the physical edition is actually more than that. Donkey Kong Bonanza, on the other hand, also a mainline in-house Nintendo title, first party developed and all of that, and a 3D giant open adventure, open world-ish looking Donkey Kong game, that's priced at $70. So 70 is what I was expecting, but it looks like Nintendo's going to have that upper echelon tier of games that they just consider worth the $80 value, and then they're throwing this additional price on the physical edition of games, at least in some regions. That is not confirmed pricing in the US at this point in time, as far as I can tell. But there's, you know, this is happening in a world where we are seeing and hearing rumors about Grand Theft Auto 6 being priced at $100. So I think that baseline, you know, the game can only cost this much. I think we're going to go to maybe a very more case-by-case basis for a lot of these games, but I'm expecting Nintendo to really sell most everything at 70, and then those massive heavy hitter 3D Mario, new Mario Kart, Smash Bros, next major 3D Zelda. Get ready for that $80 price point digitally and potentially $90 physically. So obviously not a good news situation there. And don't get me wrong, I love the Direct. I'm super hyped, but we got to be real with exactly what's happening with the pricing situation, because it does put a damper on some things that were announced today. Then, if you're a physical collector, you might want to know that we are staring directly into the eyes of the death of physical games, unfortunately. I am very aware of what this looks like right now. This might be the last console generation that Nintendo really supports physical games, because they're already 1 foot out the door. They cost more. Then you have this Nintendo Switch 2 game key card overview. Game key cards are different from regular game cards because they don't contain the full game data. Instead, the game key card is your key to downloading the full game to your system via the internet. Now, yes, we had things like this happen in the past already. PS5, Xbox Series X and S. You buy a disc, a lot of cases, it's just a code to download your game from the actual web server. Nintendo was pretty good, at least from a first party perspective, of always putting their full game on the cartridge, but there were one-off cases where additional downloads were required. Now they're just kind of getting the terminology out of the way that game key cards are different from regular game cards. Now, this is going to be a distinction in select games too, and you will see it on the box if it's a game key card or if it's a full game card. But now we have this physical market where only a portion of the physical games are actually true physical games, because we are going to be looking at a situation where, depending on what type of game you're picking up, and I'm sure a lot of the third parties are going to take advantage of this, you're basically just going to be buying the key to download that game. And what's the point of owning physical at that point? Because you're not disconnecting from a server. You're not able to put this in your console 20 years from now and not worry about if the servers have been discontinued or not. So insert the game key card into the system. Step 2, download the game. The game itself isn't included on the game key card. You'll have to download it before you can play it. When you insert the game key card, further instructions will be displayed on the home menu. Please follow the instructions to download the game. Please note, to download the game, you must have enough free space on your Nintendo Switch 2 system. So that means, you know, you were back to needing additional storage. It's 256 gigabyte, yes, but we're going to have to potentially uninstall games as opposed to having them all playable on the cartridge. Now, this is not confirmed for, like, for instance, Mario Kart World. That may not be a physical key card game whenever you buy the physical edition, but it also might. We don't have all of the detail at the time I'm filming this video, at least not that I have come across, but this is a very fluid situation, so I will be making follow-up videos on all this stuff as we get more information. But check this out. An internet connection is only required when you launch the game for the first time. After this, the game can be started even without an internet connection. However, like regular physical software, the game key card must be inserted into this system in order to play games. So they're saying it's a one-time check. Like, later on down the line, it doesn't really matter, but it's still going to be an issue if you care about game preservation for the long term. Okay, let's dive into UI, because we actually did see the home screen, not directly from the presentation. We saw the settings screen going to 4K and stuff like that in terms of the B-roll footage that Nintendo was showing. But since then, and I'm not sure when this popped up, there was a point in the Direct where it definitely lagged out, and on the Nintendo of America stream, it got like all out of sync. That was actually for everybody, I found out later. Fortunately, we switched over to the UK stream. Thank you for whoever said that in chat. I know you were in there saying UK stream is fine. Hopped over to that one, didn't have any issues. But anyway, so it could have been shown off during that portion, but I don't think that this was actually shown off during the Direct. But would you look at that? Almost the same UI. Like the thing that so many people were wanting to change about the Switch on the UI and the home menu, they pretty much rolled out the same one. It's a light theme. There was a theme section in the settings, so maybe we actually have downloadable customizable themes, and maybe when you're highlighting Mario Kart World, the whole background becomes the game. There's some missing context to the UI here, but in terms of how it works, it's similar. The eShop's probably not integrated into this operating system, so that's still a separated app. I just hope it's not near as laggy in this case, but yes, if you were hoping for a radical redesign of the UI for Nintendo Switch 2, not the case this time. Now we're going to get into some more of the exciting good news portion of all of this, because again, even though we've had to make some call outs, I'm very much pumped for everything we learned today. Based on the Japanese prices, it seems like Switch 2 Game Edition upgrades will cost $10 for smaller upgrades like Zelda and $20 for bigger ones with new DLC content like Kirby and Mario, or Mario Party rather. So this is good info. Release date, we have all the Breath of the Wild Switch Edition, Tears of the Kingdom Switch Edition, but there's going to be a price difference based off if they added in new content to the game at all. So for the Mario Party Jamboree expansion content and the Kirby and Forgotten Land expansion content that we saw offered, $20 to get the game running way better and getting additional stuff. I think that's awesome. I'm actually really on board with that pricing. I love that they're giving the option as a one-time purchase, but better than that, you are able to actually upgrade these games for free if you are a Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack member. So while, it's going to be just an extra benefit essentially to be able to take advantage of if you are an NSO member, because we didn't actually get like the full breakdown of how this would work. And to be clear, I guess it's not confirmed that that's the case for Jamboree and for Kirby, but at the very bare minimum for the $10 tier upgrades, what's been communicated so far is that the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom Switch 2 upgrades are free to Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack members. So there may still be an additional $10 charge or even the full $20 potentially if you want to do the extra content, but just the fact that we can take advantage of some of these game upgrades without having to pay any kind of fee if you're a NSO expansion pack member, that's definitely a great news situation. Then further great news, from Nintendo over here, also on X, free updates to select Nintendo Switch games different than Nintendo Switch 2 editions. So this is big because free updates to improve playability on the Nintendo Switch 2 system will release to select Nintendo Switch games. By connecting your Nintendo Switch 2 to the internet, you can download free updates that may improve performance or add support for features such as game share in select games. The content of these free updates will differ depending on the game. So to be fair, and in the fine print there, this may be more tied to the game share feature, but I don't think so. A lot of these are single player games anyway that don't really apply to game share. And so I do believe that Nintendo is going to be updating the mass majority of these games on the screen to get better performance. And would you look at that, we might finally have a good working playable version of Scarlet and Violet with a decent frame rate, because these are listed on the free upgrades. That's a win in my book. We have Link's Awakening and Echoes of Wisdom on this list as well, both of which were definitely in need of upgrade for the frame rate issue in those games, specifically Echoes of Wisdom, very noticeable in the overworld at select parts. This is a reason to go back and check out some of these games again, and these are all going to be available day one when the Switch 2 launches on June 5th. So good news scenario here. This is very interesting. They did announce achievements of some sort, but it is not clear exactly how these work yet. But VGC had the write-up on this. I have not seen this cross-confirmed in a bunch of different outlets or anything like this, but this is what you need to know about a version of an achievement system coming to Switch 2. So Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom will have achievements on Nintendo Switch 2. In-app achievements will be exclusive to the Nintendo Switch 2 versions of the game. So you get the Switch 2 versions, and then you have what I am assuming is initially tied to the smartphone, but we don't know how this works on the console yet, and we may get those answers over the upcoming days and weeks. Both games will receive Nintendo Switch 2 editions, which are enhanced versions of the original Nintendo Switch games, which will receive improved visuals and other benefits. Switch 2 editions are, we know all of this, but what we want to actually go over is in addition to the notes thing that you saw, what we really want to focus in on here further down, the achievements will track things like weapons collected, the number of shrines completed, and other in-game metrics. Another achievement system, medals, will be awarded for reaching certain in-game milestones. Players will be able to track their achievements against their friends and other players in the Nintendo app. So my big question is does this Nintendo app and the achievements and how you unlock them actually tie into your base NSO account, or are we only looking at this thing on the Nintendo app on your smartphone? I really hope it's not just tied to the smartphone, but I do think if it's on the smartphone, you are probably going to be able to see that info tied to your online profile, which will also be accessible through the Nintendo Switch Online profile section on the console. So I think we got in-game achievements, but it might be done in kind of a weird way. So we have to see what it looks like for, all the other games, the Switch 2 games, but this is just specifically Switch 2 Edition games. Okay, shifting gears. Next thing, Switch 2 GameCube controller will only be offered to those who pre-order the console. GameCube games are coming to Nintendo Switch Online service. This is a huge win for me. I mean, we're gonna have to make a whole separate video on the fact that we're gonna have Wind Waker playable on Nintendo Switch 2, which is absolutely freaking fantastic. But anyway, they do have this GameCube Switch Edition controller, which I think is gonna be $60 US, but you actually have to pre-order the console through the My Nintendo store in order to buy this Switch 2 GameCube Edition wireless controller. Now, I do believe that this is the initial how you're going to be able to get it. Nintendo's going to open it up to everybody, but they're trying to specifically stop scalping in a lot of ways. They're trying to get this to people who are going to basically buy the console to play GameCube NSO because it's exclusive to GameCube is exclusive to Switch 2 NSO. And we actually have to talk about a different thing that Nintendo quietly said, where they said select games from your NSO library will be playable on the Switch 2. So I'm hoping there's not a big variance in the Switch 1 NSO library compared to the Switch 2 NSO library, because there definitely shouldn't be, but we got to clarify some stuff like that. But initially, GameCube controller for pre-orders and stuff, only if you buy the NSO console. If you guys know anything about trying to get these NSO controllers over the course of time, initially they are terrible to find, impossible. Every single stock drop, it is just fighting people to be there first to the punch, and Nintendo doesn't do a good job of announcing it, so you do have to follow stock tracker accounts and stuff. But when that sells out, eventually they finally get caught up to demand, and they will ultimately get stock caught up. Shout out to Arrow, fellow content creator. I bookmarked this over on X because I did see him mention it. So finally some good news. Screenshots and videos you take on the Nintendo Switch 2 will instantly appear on the Nintendo Switch 2 app on your phone like PS5. So this is pretty cool because they didn't really detail how easy it's going to be or different it's going to be to capture your gameplay on Nintendo Switch, but it basically, you're going to have like a synchronization feature where just whatever you screenshot and or save as a gameplay clip is going to be easily accessible on your smartphone to share on social media or anywhere else you want to share it. Now there's like the camera with the microphone and everything else going on. Nintendo's actually getting into the modern day when it comes to supporting some of these features. So I thought that was really cool. Nintendo Switch 2 accessories. We're not done yet. Nintendo Switch 2 Pro controller priced at $79.99 MSRP. I will be getting this. This looks like a nice, very similar to the Pro controller, to be fair. But we have the headphone jack in there, which I'm assuming all your in-game audio is going to be able to run through, as well as microphone for things like chat. You have the C button included and a very similar form factor, but cleaned up a little bit. And then it does, obviously built-in amiibo functionality, the capture button, the C button, and you have those customizable back buttons right here, which is like a lot of the third-party accessory manufacturers. You can program those to whatever you want them to be. Switch 2 Joy-Cons for additional Joy-Cons, $89.99. So get ready to spend some money if you're trying to get a lot of the Switch 2 stuff. It's crazy. Joy-Con charging grip is $34.99. The straps are $12.99. The Joy-Con wheel are $20. And so the camera also $50, $49.99 US. So if you want to buy that, pick it up day one, $50 is what that's setting you back. Additional docks, $109.99. Steep price there. So probably, if you end up getting a couple Switch 2s for the household, probably better just to keep your dock in a different room and do it that way, because that is a steep price for just the dock alone. Okay, let's round out with some looks at just new art for Nintendo. So we know what the Switch 2 box art looks like now. This is a Switch 2 edition of Breath of the Wild. You see the nice red logo banner. It's all of this, like the game cards are going to be red, and it looks like the game cases as well will be red, very easily distinguishing whether it's a Switch 2 version or a Switch 1 version. You have a look at a Switch 2 exclusive game and Donkey Kong Bonanza. You have Tears of the Kingdom Switch 2 edition. So Nintendo's going to be reselling all this stuff, you know, like they're going to basically resell a lot of their big hits from the Switch library, upgrading them to run better on Switch 2 and letting you buy them for the first time if you want to get them for the new console. But if you own them, you can upgrade them. So it's like a lot of the leaks and rumors we've talked about on the channel for that enhanced backwards compatibility. Nintendo's doing it exactly how we talked about they maybe would in prior videos. This last part, I'm just going to scroll through briefly for you guys so you can see it. It's just a nice gallery of images. And I'll have some of this stuff linked in the description down below if you want to go through and look at it in more detail. But just tons of new images that we have not seen before. Obviously, we got tons of new trailers for the hardware and everything like that. But it's just nice to see high quality renders of all of this different stuff. In case if you want to just get an up close and more personal look at the Switch 2, we're gonna get tons of footage between the Treehouse and then the experience events happening over the weekend, kicking off in LA, I believe first. You know, there's gonna be so many different looks at the consoles, the games, and everything that we'll continue to cover and keep you up to date with here on the channel. But lots and lots of Switch 2 news. We may do still a direct reactions video. We may just end up kind of, you know, doing some more individual deep dives on the games that I want to cover. Lots to talk about there. I'm a huge FromSoft fan here, so having the new Duskbloods show up as well as Elden Ring. There's so much cool stuff besides the Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bonanza, like and GameCube NSO. So many wins from this direct, but I know there's obviously going to be a lot of topic of conversation around the price point and getting this console and all of that stuff, and the game's price specifically. So let me know in the comments down below how you're feeling about all this, and also just share, you know, where's your mindset at now that we have this additional details around things like game upgrades, maybe an achievement system, the UI. You know, what do you feel like about all of that stuff now that we're learning more? So make sure you share all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below before you leave, regardless if we agree or disagree. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell. And with that, I've been Sunbro, you've been Nation. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.